guys, welcome back to another one. In today's breakdown video, we're doing the original Winchester HS410 here. This is from the year, presumably, that, HS Halls came out, and this one is thanks to Josh. This is his box of shells. I have one left. So, well, I have one here, is what I meant to say. He has the rest of the box in his truck. He just loaned this to me to do a video on, but yeah, this is the, I believe, first year production of the HS Hall. You can see right there, high strength HS Hall. See side panel for reloading information. We will take a look at that in just a moment. I'm sure that's not the original price tag, but this is about as standard of a 3-inch 410 shell as you can imagine. It is 11/16 ounce of number 6 shot, running 1135 FPS. It's pretty standard right there, nothing special at all, very basic. I believe this box right here is also what the final run of the compression formed hulls came in, this silvery gray color. This box is about 20 years old. I believe the HS hulls came out in 2003. Correct me if I'm wrong, but right here is the information that was claimed on this side of the box, the top of it. 410 gauge, which we all know, it's not a gauge. 410 is the bore measurement. If it was a gauge, it would be right at 67 5/8 gauge. But anyway, high strength HS hull for long reloading life. Now, with the 410 HS hulls, they don't last all that long. 6 firings is what I've gotten out of them before the hull mouth starts to split and get all, disgusting and roasted pretty bad. But high velocity for the most demanding shots. I wouldn't really call that high velocity, but sure. What's next? Custom blended propellant produces consistent velocities while minimizing recoil and chamber residue. I feel like if you're trying to minimize 410 recoil, you probably need more meat on your bones. That's even 3-inch 410 right here, it's nothing. There's next to no recoil. Winchester primers give fast, dependable ignition. I like Winchester primers. They're actually my favorite to use. But Shaddots are a very, very close second. And we always like seeing this, the recommended. Well, it's a shot shell guide. Use what size and gauge on specific game, like geese, ducks, pheasants, things like that. Goes down to squirrel, 12, 16, 20, 28, 410, use on a squirrel. Yeah, these are always really cool to see. You don't see that too much on modern boxes, but we already looked at that side. This side is the same thing. Bottom of it, just some information about Olin, Winchester, a barcode, safety first, boring stuff. Top of it, done looked at that. I guess that's it. Moving on to the hull here. There's really nothing, fancy about this. It's just a AA HS hull. Just happens to be the first year production, I believe. Just says Super X on it. 3-inch, 11/16 ounce, number 6 shot. And it is 76 millimeters, which is 3 inches. It has a 6-point fold crimp on it with a tiny hole in the middle. Not enough for even a number 9 pellet to leak out of, or not leak, but roll out of. If I sound weird in this video, it's because I am a bit under the weather again. Just a regular Winchester 209 primer and a 12 millimeter brass head on it. Nope, this is not brass plated steel, it is legit brass. Something you don't see very much with modern shells. This is a modern shell, but most shells you see nowadays are using brass plated steel unless it's a AA HS hull or STS, Nitro 27, high overall. There are a few others, but for the most part, it's all brass plated steel or just steel. If you look right here, you can see 2 pellets kind of peeking through the plastic a little bit. That tells me the shot cup probably ends about right here, and the rest of the shot is sitting above the, wad. But let's crack this open and see how they put it together. It is just a AA HS. It's not tapered. This is a straight wall hull. As you can hopefully see right there, it does have a relatively low, not a flat plastic base wad. It does have sort of a bowl shape, but nothing at all like the 12 or 20 gauge AA HS. Once again, the 410 HS hull is straight wall, as is the 28 gauge. The HS line, not all of them are tapered, just the 12 and 20. But you can see the Winchester 209 down in there. Other than that, nothing else really of note, other than just like the original AA's, this is non-ribbed. It's a smooth hull, which some people think that provides, smoother extraction and chambering, which may or may not be true. I think it actually is. But yeah, moving on from that, let's actually take a look at the wad next. And here it is. I believe Winchester is actually still using the same wad today in the same shell. It has a 3-petal slit on it, and it's slit about 9/10 of the way down. It's not quite full, but you guys can see it right there. Obviously, this is not a full-length shot cup for 3-inch 410. This is probably the exact same wad that they use in the 2.5-inch shells. That would be my guess. There is about that much shot sticking up above the top of the wad here. And that shot will spread out a little bit more than the shot that is actually in the wad. And I do want to note these petals are very, very thin. I'm trying to get the camera to focus on them, but I think you can see right there, these petals are, well, they look paper thin, and you can actually bend these no effort at all. They are actually somewhat thinner than regular, like a 12 gauge target style wad, like a Claybuster or the original Winchester AA's. Yeah, this is thinner than those. I wouldn't imagine this would pattern very good, but you never know. Actually, we do know at 25 yards from a fixed full choke 26-inch barrel, that's about the limit on these. We did pattern one of those in the 3-inch, or not 3-inch, but 410 mini shell video we did about a month ago. Yeah, Josh fired one of these, the 3-inch 410s right here, at 25 yards, and that was its limit. Moving on to the powder, it's 14 even of course, a ball powder. This one is actually slightly gold in color, which I've never seen before in a ball powder. Winchester's Super Target is kind of white in color. Long Shot is straight up silver. HS6 is silver to having a slight touch of copperish, element to it. This is almost gold. Again, I've never seen a ball powder that color. It's not coming across on the camera very well. Move it over here, you can see it wasn't just the orange lighting of the scale. It actually is a slight gold color, which is pretty cool. It looks like there are a couple larger flakes blended into, so could be a blended powder. Anyway, powder looks awesome. Let's move on to the shot. The box claims 11/16 of an ounce, and like usual with Winchester, you get what you pay for. This is spot on 11/16 of an ounce, 0.68 to 0.69, and it actually is some really good looking shot. All appears to be the same size. It's not particularly shiny or anything. It has some haziness to it, but this is about 20 years old, and the shell wasn't completely sealed, so I'd imagine oxygen did get in there and kind of oxidized the lead just a little bit, but still, let's have a better look at that. And here it is. Once again, it all appears to be the same size. I see no deformities, no malformed pellets, nothing like that. Just, again, some really nice looking shot. Although it is somewhat oxidized. It's hard to come across on the camera, but it is hard to see on camera is what I meant to say. But it's a little bit hazy. It's not as nice and like shiny black as Winchester's shot usually is these days. So this shell, extremely simple. Hull and primer, powder, wide shot, crimp. Very, very basic, nothing fancy going on here at all. Just a nice 25 yard and in, small game, small bore shotgun shell here. excellent for a beginner to learn with, or maybe your son or daughter wants to get into hunting or just firearms in general. This is what I started on whenever I grew up, was 410. It was a mix of 2.5 inch and 3 inch. It didn't really matter, just whatever we could find, and that's what I learned to shoot growing up, that and 22 long rifle. If I would have, well, I can choose now. My son, whenever he learns to shoot, is going to be with the 32 gauge. You can see right there it says Cal 32. Yes, this one is hacked up. I think I have some actual 32 gauge. Yeah, let me get one out here real quick. 32 gauge right here. They're not normally done with a fold crimp, and that one's kind of wonky, but you can see 32 gauge is actually quite a bit bigger than 410, but it doesn't kick any harder because it's the same payload, a 1/2 ounce to 3/4. Usually not much more than 3/4, but yeah, 32 gauge naturally patterns a lot better than 410. It actually out patterns 28 gauge too, but anyway, that's probably what my son will learn to shoot on first, is the 32. He can probably, if he's a good shot, which, you know, we'll teach him how to be, but they pattern a lot better. Probably a little bit farther range too because of the much denser, better patterns. I feel like he'd have a much easier time with 32 gauge than 410. Plus the gun is a little bit smaller and lighter. It's not smaller as in length of pull, it's smaller as in the 410 is like this, the 32 gauge is literally like that thin. Anyway, let's slap this shell back together and see if we can make it look presentable. Alright, and here it is. After the GOT BN2, actually no, that's the OMV crimp finisher. And that looks just like it did out of the box. The hole is still in it. I could have fixed that, but I wasn't really concerned about it. It's been like that for 20 years. Why bother fixing it? But it does have a nice taper on it. Overall, I call that a success. I believe right here is actually where the shot cup ends, right on my thumb. The rest of the shot is once again above it, which will spread out just a little bit more. But guys, there it is. Winchester. Could you call this vintage? Sure. Usually, if a shell is more than 20 years old, I'll call it vintage, but yeah. Anyway, double AHS, vintage box of it, about 20 years old when these first came out, but yeah, thanks to Josh for the, well, being able to do this, I guess, but we'll catch you guys in the next one. Hope you enjoyed it.